Sequel number 115 of the Church of Uganda at 150, a celebration through history. Welcome. In this particular sequel, we're going to analyze the dramatic arrival of Bishop Jones as the Assistant Bishop of Kampala in 1920. The new Assistant Bishop of Kampala, Right Reverend Herbert Graceford Jones, and his beautiful wife Elizabeth, received a hero's welcome at Luzira landing site on Lake Victoria, of course. And this was on Monday, 15th November 1920. From the civil side, Katikiro Apollo Kagwa laid the kingdom to welcome the new assistant bishop. And his party was composed of Yakobo Musajja Rumbwa, the treasurer of the kingdom, among others. Several missionaries from all over the place were also at the Ruzila landing site of Lake Victoria, and they were led by the Archdeacon of Uganda, Venerable George Baskerville. With him were the other clergy and rural deans such as Canon Loring, and of course Mr. and Mrs. Cook, the doctors from Mengo Hospital. Some missionaries traveled from upcountry to receive the Assistant Bishop of Kampala, and among them were the Reverend and Mrs. Allen Wilson, Mrs. Bond, Mrs. F.T. Hill, Mrs. Alice Horn, the Reverend J.S. Herbert, and the Reverend J.L. Cobham. Now, as you realize, the Bishop of Uganda, John Jamieson Willis, was nowhere to be seen at the Ruzila landing site, and there were no apologies. On arrival in Mengo, the assistant bishop, his wife, and the party were taken to Mengo Palace to meet Sekabaka Chwa II, who gave them a tea party. It was in the presence of the Queen, Drusilla Namaganda Kisosonkole. They had just got a baby earlier in June, Princess Rwantali. And there was also some secret drama in the palace. Apparently, the Kabaka was secretly seeing the sister to the queen, or to the Nabagereka, Miriam Nanyondo Kaizi. She was the younger sister of Drusilla Namaganda Kaizi. And rumors were circulating, which were proved to be non-rumors at all later, that indeed Miriam Nanyondo was pregnant by the Kabaka. But because of now the country is getting even an assistant bishop, there had to be a cover-up. So a private individual who was actually the private secretary of the Kabaka, his name was Edemok Karembe. He was fronted as the husband of Miriam Nanyondo, and therefore he was purported to be the husband of Miriam Nanyondo. In fact, a wedding was agreed. So a complete wedding was happened solemnized between the two, and yet it was a cover-up. They wanted to cover up the pregnancy of Miriam Nanyondo so as not to be identified to Kalemba. However, Kalembe was awarded. He visited England, and all that was to make sure that the secret was kept. Indeed, a prince was born, and his name was Prince Daniel Swata. But all this was secret, Daniel Swata remained a top secret. Nobody was supposed to know, especially the church. So it was in those circumstances that the new bishop was arriving in the country, and he was now being given a very warm reception at the Mengo Palace by the Kabaka. But deep down, things were not very, very, very straight. There was that particular cover up. Now, the following day, on Tuesday, the 16th of November 1920, there was a thanksgiving service to God in Namirembe Cathedral, and this was conducted and led by the Bishop of Uganda, John James Willis, in the presence of the new arrival, Assistant Bishop Herbert Gresford Jones. Bishop Willis was not the preacher, but he was invited to speak. Now, in his welcoming remarks, he immediately issued a bombshell by announcing how small the congregations of Nakasero and Entebbe were, and that in that respect the Assistant Bishop of Kampala would be found what he called a more appropriate posting. Now, Bishop Willis announced that he had called the following year's synod to assemble earlier in January of the following year. And he said that the reason he was doing that was for the synod to agree on the appropriate posting of the latest assistant bishop who had just arrived. Now, all this did not make sense to the new assistant bishop. He was not aware. And so he avoided talking about it. Or he pretended not to have heard what the bishop was saying. And so when he went to deliver his sermon, the assistant bishop, Right Reverend Gresford Jones, who preached, thanked all the people for the warm welcome, and especially those who had traveled from up country to receive him. He mentioned how he looked forward, and I believe this he did deliberately. He mentioned how he looked forward to visit the All Saints Chapel at Nakasero and the St. John's Chapel at Entebbe to do what he called to start work, for he was more than ready to execute the instructions of his posting by the Archbishop of Canterbury, the Most Reverend Randall Thomas Davidson. It was very difficult for anybody to realize what was happening here. But I think the fight was set right on this day. The Bishop of Uganda knew he had begun his battle, and the new latest arrival knew that something was amiss. However, for now, this is enough. Gresford is on the ground. Future sequels, we shall see how the Bishop of Uganda used the synod, which was to sit the following year, and to do exactly what he had plotted to do. And that is what I meant when I said that, yes, this dramatic arrival is full of intrigue, is full of cover-ups, and is full of undercover strategies, and all this in the Church of God. Brethren, even as we celebrate 150 years of our church, this may be a question. Is it still happening? Do we still have intrigue? Do we still have cover-ups? Do we still have undercover plans in the Church of God? May the good Lord bless us all.